The exploration ship USS Horizon moved slowly through space toward the new planet. Captain Danny Morrison stood on the bridge watching the green and blue world grow larger on the main screen. After 3 months of travel, they had finally reached Kepler 442b, a planet that looked just like Earth. "All scans show the planet is safe for humans," said Chief Science Officer Lisa Carter. She pushed her glasses up her nose as she read the data. "The air is good to breathe and the temperature is perfect. But there's something strange in the mountains." Captain Morrison turned to look at her. "What kind of strange?" "Big energy readings coming from deep caves. The computer can't figure out what's making them." Lisa showed him the screen with colorful lines and numbers. "It might be some kind of old alien technology. Should we check it out?" asked Security Chief Jake Phillips. He was a big man who always carried his weapon ready. "Could be dangerous." Dr. Maria Santos looked up from her workstation. She was the ship's expert on alien life forms. "If it's alien technology, we need to study it. That's why we're here." She glanced back at her 7-year-old daughter Katie, who was coloring pictures in the corner of the bridge. "Katie, honey, you need to stay close to Mommy today." Katie looked up with bright eyes and smiled. "Are we going to meet aliens, Mom?" "Maybe, sweetheart. But you have to promise to stay right beside me." Captain Morrison made his decision. "We'll take a small team down to investigate. Lisa, Maria, Jake, and 4 security officers. Everyone else stays on the ship." 2 hours later, the team landed their shuttle near the mountain caves. The planet smelled like flowers and fresh rain. Birds that looked like Earth birds sang in the trees, but their songs were different. Katie held her mother's hand tight as they walked toward the dark cave opening. "The energy readings are getting stronger," Lisa said, looking at her handheld scanner. "Whatever's in there, it's big." They turned on their lights and walked into the cave. The walls were smooth and covered with strange symbols that glowed softly blue. The deeper they went, the warmer it became. "Mom, look how pretty." Katie pointed at the glowing symbols. "It's like a fairy tale castle." "Stay close," Dr. Santos whispered. Her scientist mind was excited, but her mother heart was worried. After walking for 20 minutes, they entered a huge room. The ceiling was so high their lights couldn't reach it. But what made everyone stop and stare were the eggs. 7 giant eggs sat in the center of the room. Each one was as big as a small car and covered in patterns that pulsed with soft light. The eggs were warm and the team could feel heat coming from them. "They're alive," Dr. Santos whispered. She pulled out her scanner and pointed it at the nearest egg. "There's something big growing inside each one. Should we leave?" Jake asked, his hand on his weapon. "This feels like trouble." Before anyone could answer, one of the eggs began to crack. A thin line appeared down the middle, glowing bright orange. The crack grew bigger and bigger. "Everyone back up," Captain Morrison ordered. "Weapons ready, but don't shoot unless I say so." The egg split open with a loud crack. Steam poured out, smelling like metal and fire. Something big moved inside the broken shell. What came out was the stuff of nightmares. The creature was 3 meters long with black scales that seemed to eat the light. Its eyes glowed red like hot coals. Sharp claws scraped against the stone floor. When it opened its mouth, rows of teeth gleamed like knives. Worst of all, the air around it shimmered with heat. The baby dragon looked around the room with intelligence that was scary to see. This wasn't just an animal. This was something that could think and plan. Jake raised his weapon. "Captain, that thing is dangerous." The dragon turned toward them and took a deep breath. Fire and super-hot gas shot from its mouth, hitting the cave wall. "The rock melted like ice cream in summer. Run," Captain Morrison shouted. "Everyone out now." The team started backing toward the cave entrance. The dragon stepped out of its broken egg, moving like a hunter. Its red eyes looked at each person, deciding which one to attack first. But then Katie did something that changed everything. She let go of her mother's hand and stepped forward. Her eyes went wide with wonder, and she clapped her little hands together. "Oh my gosh, Mom," she said in her sweet 7-year-old voice. "Look how cute it is. It's like a baby dinosaur from my picture books." Everyone froze. The dragon stopped moving. Its glowing red eyes locked onto the small human child who had just called it cute. "Katie, no." Dr. Santos reached for her daughter, but Katie was already walking toward the dragon. "Don't you see how beautiful he is?" Katie asked, looking back at the adults. "His scales are so shiny, and look at those big eyes. He's not scary, he's wonderful." The dragon tilted its massive head to one side. In all the genetic memories passed down from its ancestors, no creature had ever called a dragon cute. All other species ran in terror or bowed down in fear. But this tiny being was walking toward it with a huge smile. Katie stopped right in front of the dragon. She was so small that she barely came up to its chest. The creature could have eaten her in one bite, but it just stared down at her with confusion. "Hi there, little guy," Katie said softly. "Are you all alone?" That must be scary, waking up with nobody around. She slowly reached out her small hand. The dragon looked at it, then very carefully touched one enormous claw to her palm. The claw was bigger than her whole hand, but the dragon was gentle. "See?" Katie turned back to her mother with a bright smile.
He just wants to be friends.
"Can we keep him, Mom, please? He's all alone and probably scared." Dr. Santos didn't know whether to grab her daughter and run or faint from fear. The most dangerous-looking creature she had ever seen was being gentle with Katie. The dragon made a soft rumbling sound deep in its throat. It wasn't a growl or a roar. It sounded almost like the purring of a giant cat. "I think he likes me," Katie giggled. "What should we call him?" "How about Ember?" Because his eyes glow like fire, but warm fire, not scary fire. The dragon, now named Ember, lowered its great head until it was level with Katie's face. The child reached up and gently patted its snout. Captain Morrison slowly lowered his weapon. He had seen many strange things in his years exploring space, but nothing like this. A 7-year-old human girl had just made friends with a baby dragon. "Well," he said quietly, "I guess we're not leaving just yet." Katie sat cross-legged on the cave floor next to Ember, showing him her coloring book. The baby dragon watched with great interest as she pointed to different pictures. "This is a horse," she explained, turning the page, "and this is a cat. We have lots of animals on Earth. Do you have animals on your planet?" Ember made soft rumbling sounds and touched the book gently with one claw. Dr. Santos watched in amazement as her daughter chatted away with a creature that should have been terrifying. "Maria, this is incredible," Lisa whispered. "Look at how calm it is with her. The moment any of us get too close, it tenses up, but with Katie, it's like they understand each other." Dr. Santos agreed. She was still worried about her daughter's safety, but she couldn't deny what she was seeing. Captain Morrison was talking quietly into his communication device. "Earth Command, this is Morrison. We've made contact with an alien life form. It's complicated. I'll send a full report soon." Jake kept his weapon ready but stayed back. "Captain, what if more of those eggs hatch? This one might be friendly with the kid, but what about the others?" As if he had spoken magic words, another egg began to crack. This time the team was ready. They moved Katie and Ember to a safe distance and watched as the second dragon emerged. This hatchling was different. Its scales were dark green and it came out of its egg angry. The moment it saw the humans, it roared and breathed fire in their direction. "Get down," Jake shouted, pushing everyone behind a large rock. But Ember did something surprising. The black dragon stepped between Katie and the green hatchling. He spread his wings wide and made a deep, threatening sound. The green dragon stopped its attack and looked confused. "He's protecting me," Katie said with wonder. "Ember is keeping the other dragon away from us." The two baby dragons faced each other, making various growling and chirping sounds. It was clear they were talking, but the humans couldn't understand their language. "They're communicating," Dr. Santos observed. "Ember is trying to calm the other one down." After a few minutes, the green dragon settled down but kept its distance from the humans. It wouldn't let any of the adults near, but when Katie waved at it, the dragon tilted its head curiously. "I think he's scared," Katie said. "Being born in a dark cave with strangers around must be really frightening." She pulled a peanut butter sandwich from her backpack. Her mother had packed it for their cave exploration. Katie broke the sandwich in half and offered one piece to Ember. The dragon sniffed the food carefully, then took a small bite. His eyes widened with surprise and pleasure. He ate the rest quickly and looked at Katie hopefully for more. "Mom, do you have another sandwich? I think Ember really likes peanut butter." Dr. Santos smiled despite her worries. "I have one more, but that's all we brought." Katie shared her second sandwich with Ember, then walked slowly toward the green dragon. Everyone held their breath as she approached. "Here you go," she said softly, holding out a piece of her apple. "My name is Katie. What's your name?" The green dragon looked at the apple, then at Katie's smiling face. Very carefully, it took the apple piece and ate it. The dragon made a pleased rumbling sound. "I'll call you Forest," Katie decided, "because you're green like the trees." Over the next few hours, 3 more eggs hatched. Each time, the new dragons were aggressive and dangerous until Ember calmed them down and Katie showed them kindness. Soon she had named all 5 baby dragons Ember, Forest Storm, who was gray with blue eyes, Sunshine, whose scales were golden, and Ruby, who was deep red. The dragons seemed fascinated by Katie's stories about Earth. She told them about snow and beaches, about dogs and cats, about ice cream and birthday parties. They listened with intense interest, their glowing eyes never leaving her face. It's like they're learning about friendship for the first time, Lisa observed. Their body language suggests they've never experienced anything like this. Captain Morrison was getting worried reports from his ship. The energy readings from the planet are getting stronger. Something big is happening. Dr. Santos was studying the dragons with her scientific equipment. Captain, these creatures are incredibly advanced. Their brain scans show intelligence levels comparable to humans, maybe higher. And there's something else, they seem to have some kind of psychic ability. What do you mean? Morrison asked. They're sharing thoughts with each other. I can detect mental energy passing between them. And I think, she paused, checking her readings again. I think they're sharing emotions with Katie. As if to prove her point, Katie suddenly looked sad. Ember is telling me about his dreams. He remembers things from before he was born. His people used to live on many planets, but something bad happened. They were put to sleep for a very long time. Ember nuzzled Katie's shoulder gently and she petted his warm scales. He says his family has been looking for them for thousands of years. The eggs were hidden here to keep them safe, but now they're awake and their family doesn't know where they are. Captain Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. Katie, asked Ember how big his family is. Katie whispered to the dragon, who made several soft sounds in response. He says very big. His family has giant ships that can cross the whole galaxy. They're strong and powerful, but they've been very sad because they lost their babies. And now the babies are awake, Jake said grimly, which means the family might come looking for them. As if the universe had heard him, alarms started going off on everyone's communication devices. Lisa checked her scanner and went pale. Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures approaching the planet. Multiple ships, bigger than anything I've ever seen. Captain Morrison grabbed his communicator. Morrison to Horizon. What's your status? Captain, you need to see this, came the reply from his ship. We have incoming vessels. They're enormous. And they're not human. Through the cave entrance, they could see lights in the sky, bright spots that were growing larger by the minute. Katie looked up from petting Ember. Don't worry, she said with a 7-year-old's confidence. They're just coming to get their babies. I'm sure they'll be nice once they see how good Ember and his friends are. The adults exchanged worried glances. In their experience, when massive alien warships appeared in the sky, things rarely went well, but Katie just continued playing with her new dragon friends, completely unaware that she had just become the most important person in what might be the first contact between humans and an ancient, powerful alien race. Ember curled his long neck around Katie protectively and made soothing sounds. Whatever was coming, he would keep his small friend safe. The sky above the planet filled with enormous ships. Each one was the size of a city, with dark metal surfaces and glowing orange lines that pulsed like heartbeats. Captain Morrison had never seen anything so massive or frightening. How many ships? He asked into his communicator. 12 so far, Captain, but more keep appearing. They're not answering any of our signals. They're just waiting. Katie looked up from where she was braiding flowers into Ember's scales. They're scared too, she said simply. Ember told me. His family thinks their babies might be hurt or dead. They're very worried. All 5 baby dragons had gathered around Katie, forming a protective circle. They made soft humming sounds that seemed to comfort each other. Dr. Santos knelt beside her daughter. Katie, sweetheart, we might need to leave soon. These ships are very big and powerful, but we can't leave Ember and his friends, Katie protested. They just woke up. They don't know anything about this planet or how to take care of themselves. As she spoke, a new sound filled the air. It was deep and powerful, like the sound of distant thunder that went on and on. The baby dragons lifted their heads and answered with high-pitched calls. They're talking to the ships, Lisa realized. The babies are telling their family that they're alive. The thunderous sound changed, becoming more urgent and demanding. The baby dragons looked uncomfortable, pressing closer to Katie. What's wrong? Katie asked Ember, stroking his neck. The dragon made worried sounds and Katie's expression grew serious. He says his family is angry. They want to know who woke the babies up and why there are aliens here. Captain Morrison felt his heart sink. First contact with an advanced alien race was always dangerous. But when that race had ships the size of moons and seemed upset, it was terrifying. Katie, can you ask Ember to tell his family that we're friendly? That we didn't mean any harm? Katie whispered to Ember, who called out toward the sky. The response that came back made all the baby dragons crouch down low. They don't believe it, Katie translated, her voice small. They think we use some kind of magic to control their babies. They're coming down to get them. The ground began to shake. One of the massive ships was descending toward their location. As it got closer, the humans could see that it wasn't just big. It was beautiful. The hull was covered in the same glowing patterns as the dragon eggs, and it moved through the air like it weighed nothing at all. Everyone stay calm, Captain Morrison ordered, though he didn't feel calm himself. Keep your weapons lowered but ready. The ship landed in a clearing near the cave, crushing trees under its weight. A section of the hull opened with a hiss and 3 adult dragons emerged. These were nothing like the babies. Each adult was the size of a school bus, with scales that gleamed like metal armor. Their wings stretched wide enough to cover a football field. When they walked, the ground shook under their feet. The lead dragon was ancient and scarred, with deep blue scales and eyes like burning stars. When it saw the humans, it reared back and roared, a sound so loud and terrifying that rocks fell from the cave ceiling. The baby dragons immediately ran to their elder, but instead of seeming happy, they looked worried and confused. They gathered around the big dragon, chirping and making urgent sounds. Katie watched this reunion with tears in her eyes. They're trying to explain about us, she said. But the grown-up dragons don't understand. The ancient dragon, clearly the leader, turned its burning gaze on the humans. When it spoke, its voice was like an earthquake. Who dares corrupt our young? The words appeared in everyone's minds rather than their ears. What sorcery have you used to make them docile? Captain Morrison stepped forward, trying to look brave even though his knees were shaking. We mean no harm. We're explorers from Earth. We found your young by accident and tried to help them. Lies. The dragon's mental voice was filled with rage. Our hatchlings are warriors. They do not befriend prey species. That's when Katie did something that amazed everyone. The 7-year-old girl walked right up to the massive dragon, craned her neck to look up at its enormous head, and smiled. Hi there, she said in her sweet voice. You must be Ember's daddy, or maybe his grandpa. He's told me so much about his family. The ancient dragon stared down at the tiny human child. For a moment, the clearing was completely silent except for the sound of wind through the trees. You are the one, the dragon said, its mental voice quieter but still powerful. The young one speaks of nothing but Katie and her kindness. Katie beamed up at the dragon. Ember is my best friend. And Forest and Storm and Sunshine and Ruby too. They're all so smart and funny. Would you like to see the pictures they drew for me? She pulled out several large pieces of paper covered with claw marks that might have been drawings. The ancient dragon lowered its massive head to examine them. These are images of play? The confusion in the dragon's mental voice was clear. Yep, this one shows us playing hide-and-seek in the cave. And this one is all of us having a picnic. They really liked my peanut butter sandwiches. The dragon looked at the baby dragons who chirped and made happy sounds. Then it did something that surprised everyone. It reached out with one enormous claw and very gently touched Katie's hair. Never in 10,000 years has one of our kind known play, it said. Never have we known joy. Katie patted the dragon's claw. That's so sad. Everyone should know how to play. It's the best part of being alive. The ancient dragon's thoughts filled all their minds. Memories of conquest and war, of ruling over other species through fear, of being alone and powerful but never truly happy. Then Ember shared his memories. The warm feeling of Katie's friendship, the taste of peanut butter sandwiches, the fun of making drawings and hearing stories about Earth. The ancient dragon pulled back, its star-bright eyes wide with shock. What have you done to us? It asked, but its mental voice was wondering rather than angry. Katie smiled. I just wanted to be friends. Isn't that what friends do? They share good things with each other. For a long moment, the ancient dragon was silent. When it finally spoke, its voice was different, softer, more uncertain. I am Piraxis, eldest of the dragon fleets. For millennia, I have sought our lost young, but the creatures I have found are not the warriors I expected. They're better than warriors, Katie said confidently. They're friends. And friends are the best thing in the whole universe. Piraxis looked at the baby dragons again, seeing them play and laugh with the human child. For the first time in his ancient life, he began to understand that there might be something more powerful than fear, something called love. News of the dragon awakening spread across the galaxy faster than light. On 1,000 different worlds, alien governments called emergency meetings. Ancient fears that had slept for millennia suddenly woke up. Admiral Peter Hayes received the emergency message while his fleet was patrolling near the outer colonies. The message was short and terrifying. Dragons have returned. Request immediate military support at Kepler 442. Hayes had read the old stories, the legends that every spacefaring race shared. Dragons had once ruled half the galaxy, crushing entire civilizations under their claws. They were the reason so many worlds had joined together in the Galactic Alliance, to make sure nothing that powerful could ever threaten them again. All ships, set course for Kepler 442, Hayes ordered. Maximum speed. And send a message to Earth Command. Tell them to evacuate all civilian vessels from the system immediately. But when Hayes and his 50 warships arrived at the planet 3 days later, he found something impossible. The massive dragon ships were still there, floating peacefully in orbit. And on the planet's surface, his scanners showed humans and dragons together. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Captain Morrison," his communications officer reported. "He says everything is fine and requests permission to show you something important." Hayes didn't believe it. Nothing was ever fine when dragons were involved. But he agreed to meet Morrison on the planet's surface, bringing a full security team with him. What he found there made him question everything he thought he knew about the universe. In a meadow near the cave, Katie Santos was having a tea party. She sat on a blanket with 5 baby dragons arranged in a circle around her. Each dragon wore a flower crown that Katie had made, and they were very carefully holding tiny teacups in their enormous claws. "Now remember," Katie was saying seriously, "when you're having tea with friends, you have to hold your pinky claw up like this. It's good manners." The dragons were trying their best to copy her, though their teacups were actually human-sized bowls. Ember managed to lift his smallest claw, and Katie clapped with delight. "Perfect, Ember. You're getting so good at tea parties." Admiral Hayes stared at the scene with his mouth hanging open. These were supposed to be the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy, and they were playing pretend with a little girl. "Admiral," Captain Morrison said quietly, "I'd like you to meet Katie Santos and her friends." Katie looked up and waved cheerfully. "Hi, are you here for the tea party? We have plenty of room, but you'll have to wait your turn. The dragons are still learning the rules." "Katie," Dr. Santos called from where she sat with the adult dragons, "remember your manners." "Sorry, Mom." Katie stood up and walked over to Hayes. "I'm Katie, and these are my dragon friends. Would you like to meet them?" Before Hayes could answer, Ember had walked over and lowered his great head to Katie's level. The dragon made soft rumbling sounds. "Ember says you look worried," Katie translated. "Are you scared of dragons?" "You don't have to be. They're really nice once you get to know them." Hayes looked from the child to the massive creature beside her. Everything in his military training told him this situation was impossible and dangerous. But he could see the genuine affection between them. "Katie, sweetheart," he said carefully, "do you understand how big and powerful dragons are?" "Of course." Katie giggled. "But being big and powerful doesn't mean you can't be nice. My dad is really tall and strong, but he gives the best hugs in the world." As if to demonstrate, Ember curled his long neck around Katie in a gentle embrace. The little girl leaned against the dragon's warm scales with complete trust. That's when Hayes noticed something that chilled his blood. In the sky above them, more ships were appearing. But these weren't dragon vessels, they were from the Galactic Alliance. Hundreds of warships from dozens of different worlds, all coming to destroy the dragons before they could become a threat again. "Captain Morrison," Hayes said urgently, "how many Alliance ships are we expecting?" "According to my communications officer, about 800. Every major world in the galaxy is sending their military." Hayes grabbed his communicator. "This is Admiral Hayes to all incoming Alliance vessels. Hold position and do not engage. Repeat, do not engage." But he knew that many of the Alliance leaders wouldn't listen. They were too afraid, too convinced that dragons meant death and destruction. Katie had gone back to her tea party, but now the baby dragons looked worried. They kept looking up at the sky and making anxious sounds. "What's wrong?" Katie asked Ember. The dragon shared his thoughts with her, and Katie's face grew sad. "Ember says lots of ships are coming to hurt them," she told the adults. He's scared that the people in the ships won't understand that dragons can be good friends. That's when Pyraxis, the ancient dragon leader, landed nearby. His massive presence made all the human soldiers step back, but Katie ran up to him without fear. Pyraxis, did you see all the ships in the sky? Ember is worried they want to fight. The old dragon's thoughts touched everyone's minds. The galaxy comes to destroy us, as they have tried before. They fear what we once were and cannot see what we have become. Katie looked thoughtful for a moment. Then her face brightened with an idea that only a 7-year-old could have. Why don't we show them? She suggested. If they're scared because they think dragons are mean, we just need to prove that you're nice now. How would we do that, small friend? Katie grinned. We'll have the biggest tea party in the galaxy. We'll invite everyone to come down and meet the dragons. Once they see how sweet you all are, they won't be scared anymore. Admiral Hayes almost choked. Katie, those ships have weapons that could destroy this entire planet. This isn't something we can solve with a tea party. Why not? Katie asked innocently. Every problem I've ever had got better when I shared cookies with people. And dragons really like cookies. As if the universe wanted to test Katie's faith and friendship, warning alarms started blaring from all the human communication devices. Admiral, came an urgent voice. This is Fleet Commander Zorthon of the Crystalline Confederacy. By order of the Galactic Alliance, you have 1 hour to evacuate all humans from the planet's surface. After that, we begin bombardment. Hayes looked around at Katie playing with baby dragons, at Dr. Santos calmly taking scientific readings, at Captain Morrison sharing his lunch with a creature that could have eaten him whole. Commander Zorthon, Hayes replied, I respectfully request more time. The situation here is not what we expected. There is no situation to evaluate, Admiral. Dragons are an extinction-level threat. They must be destroyed before they can spread across the galaxy again. Katie had been listening to the conversation. Now she walked over to Hayes and tugged on his uniform. Mr. Admiral, she said seriously, can you ask them to come down and meet my friends? I think they're just scared because they don't know any dragons personally. Hayes looked down at the earnest little girl who thought friendship could stop a galactic war. In any other situation, he would have called her naive. But looking around at the impossible scene before him, dragons and humans coexisting peacefully, ancient enemies sharing meals and playing games, he began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, a 7-year-old understood something that all the adults had forgotten. Katie, he said quietly, what if they say no? Katie smiled with the absolute confidence that only children possess. Then we'll just have to show them how nice dragons can be. Actions speak louder than words, right? As warning shots began firing across the sky above them, Hayes realized that the fate of 2 species, and possibly the entire galaxy, now rested in the hands of a little girl who believed in the power of friendship. The first attack came without warning. A beam of bright energy shot down from one of the Alliance ships aimed directly at Pyraxis. The ancient dragon could have easily dodged the attack, but Katie was standing right beside him. Instead of moving away, Pyraxis spread his enormous wing over Katie, protecting her from the blast. The energy beam hit his wing and bounced off harmlessly, but the message was clear. He had chosen to shield a human child rather than save himself. They're shooting at us, Katie cried, not with fear but with indignation. That's not nice at all. Admiral Hayes was already on his communicator shouting orders. Ceasefire! Ceasefire immediately. There are human civilians down here. But more ships were firing now. The sky filled with deadly light as hundreds of alien vessels attacked the dragon ships in orbit. The dragons could have fought back. Their ships were bigger and more powerful than anything in the Alliance fleet. But they didn't. Instead, something amazing happened. The dragon ships moved to form a protective barrier around the human vessel USS Horizon. They were protecting their former enemies. Why aren't they fighting back? Hayes asked Pyraxis. The ancient dragon's thoughts filled his mind. The young one has taught us that protection is stronger than destruction. We will not start a war in front of the child who showed us friendship. Katie was crying now, not from fear, but from sadness. Why are they being so mean? The dragons aren't hurting anyone. Ember nuzzled against Katie, trying to comfort her. All 5 baby dragons had formed a circle around their human friend, ready to defend her with their lives. That's when Katie made a decision that would change galactic history. I need to talk to them, she announced, wiping her tears. They're scared because they don't understand. Someone needs to explain about friendship. Katie, no, her mother protested. It's too dangerous. But Katie was already climbing onto Ember's back. Ember, can you help me talk to all the ships at once? The way dragons talk to each other? Ember made questioning sounds, and Katie nodded seriously. I want to share my memories with them. I want them to see what I see when I look at you. Paraxis understood what she was asking. Small friend, dragon telepathy is very powerful. It might hurt your mind. I don't care, Katie said with the fierce determination that only children can have. My friends are in danger. I have to help them. She closed her eyes and put her small hands on Ember's head. Show them everything, Ember. Show them how we met and all the fun we've had and how much I love you. Ember touched his mind to Katie's, and Paraxis added his ancient psychic power to theirs. Suddenly, every person on every ship in the system could see and feel what Katie experienced when she looked at the dragons. They saw her first moment in the cave, when she called the terrifying hatchling cute. They felt her genuine joy at making a new friend. They experienced her complete lack of fear, her pure love for creatures that the galaxy had always seen as monsters. But more than that, they felt the dragon's response to that love. They experienced Ember's amazement at being accepted instead of feared. They shared the baby dragon's happiness as they learned to play and laugh. They felt the ancient dragon's wonder as they discovered that there was more to existence than conquest and power. The attacking stopped. Across the fleet of 800 warships, alien commanders sat in stunned silence as a 7-year-old human girl showed them what friendship really meant. Commander Zorthon of the Crystalline Confederacy was the first to speak. His voice came over the communication system, confused and shaken. Admiral Hayes, we are receiving some kind of psychic transmission. It appears to be memories of a human child playing with dragon hatchlings. That's Katie, Hayes replied. She's trying to show you what she sees when she looks at the dragons. This is impossible, came another voice. Captain Reloth of the Zephyrian Empire. Dragons do not play. They do not show affection. They certainly do not protect other species. But even as he spoke, the evidence was right in front of them. The dragon ships continued to shield the human vessel from the crossfire. Paraxis kept his wing protectively over Katie. The baby dragons formed a defensive circle around all the humans on the planet's surface. Katie's psychic message was still flowing to every ship in the system. Now she was sharing her dreams for the future. Images of dragons and humans working together, of all the different alien species becoming friends instead of enemies, of a galaxy where no one had to be afraid. The child believes this is possible, whispered Admiral Keth of the Mantarian Republic. She truly believes that dragons can change. Because they have changed, Dr. Santos called out, her voice carrying over the communication system. I've been studying them for days. Their behavior patterns, their social structures, even their brain chemistry, it's all different from the historical records. Katie's friendship has literally changed who they are. Katie opened her eyes and looked up at the ships filling the sky. Her telepathic connection with the dragons was still active, so her words reached every mind in the system. Please don't hurt my friends, she said simply. They're not the same dragons from the scary stories. They're new dragons who want to learn about love and friendship. Give them a chance to show you how good they can be. For a long moment, the system was completely quiet except for the hum of engines and the whisper of wind through the trees. Then something unprecedented happened. One by one, ships began landing on the planet's surface, not to attack, but to see for themselves what a human child had accomplished. Over the next few hours, the meadow filled with beings from dozens of different worlds. They watched in amazement as Katie showed the baby dragons how to play simple games. They saw Paraxis carefully examine Katie's drawings with genuine interest. They witnessed something that had never happened in galactic history. Natural, peaceful interaction between dragons and other species. Commander Zorthon, a tall being made of living crystal, approached Katie cautiously. Young human, he said, how did you know that these creatures could be trusted? Katie looked up from where she was teaching Ruby how to make a flower crown. I didn't know, she said honestly. I just hoped. When you meet someone new, you can choose to be scared, or you can choose to be friendly. Being friendly is more fun. But weren't you afraid they might hurt you? Katie considered this seriously. A little bit at first. But then I saw how lonely Ember looked, and I thought about how scared I would be if I woke up all alone in a strange place. So I decided to be brave and say hello. By sunset, the meadow had become the site of the most important diplomatic gathering in galactic history, but it wasn't happening in a conference room with official treaties and formal negotiations. It was happening around a campfire, with Katie telling stories while dragons and aliens alike listened with fascination. And then the princess realized that the dragon wasn't mean at all, Katie was saying. He was just sad because no one had ever been nice to him before. So she shared her sandwich with him and they became best friends forever. Piraxis, the ancient dragon who had once conquered star systems, leaned forward intently. "Tell us more about these princesses," he requested. "They sound very wise." Admiral Hayes found himself sitting next to Captain Reloth, sharing human coffee with a former enemy while they watched a little girl unite the galaxy through bedtime stories. "Hayes," Reloth said quietly, "I've been a military commander for 40 years. I've seen wars that lasted decades, negotiations that took years to complete. But this child accomplished more in one day than all our diplomats managed in centuries." Hayes nodded, watching Katie carefully braid flowers into ember scales while explaining the importance of being kind to everyone you meet. "Maybe that's because she's the only one who saw potential friends instead of enemies," he replied 5 years later. Katie Santos stood on the observation deck of the first Galactic Friendship Station, watching ships from 100 different worlds dock peacefully together. She was 12 now, but still small enough to ride on Ember's back when they toured the station. Ember had grown into a magnificent young dragon, his black scales now shot through with veins of silver. But every night he still curled up next to Katie's bed to sleep, and every morning she still shared her breakfast with him. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have imagined. Wars between species had ended as worlds realized that cooperation brought more benefits than conflict. The dragons had become protectors and teachers, sharing their ancient knowledge while learning about art, music, and literature from younger civilizations. Earth had become the diplomatic center of the galaxy, not because humans were the strongest or the smartest, but because they had produced one small girl who believed in the power of friendship. Katie was now the youngest ambassador in galactic history, though she insisted her official title should be Chief Friendship Officer. She spent her days helping resolve conflicts between different species, usually by inviting everyone to sit down together and share cookies. "Katie," Ember said in the perfect English he had learned over the years, "do you ever regret calling me cute that first day in the cave?" Katie grinned and patted her best friend's snout. "Never. That was the best day of my life. That's when I met you." She looked out at the stars, where dragon ships and human vessels and alien craft from across the galaxy traveled together in peace.